Hello, my friends. It is Thursday, March 13th, 2025, and this is the Daily Brief. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. I think I finally figured out what happened both in Pokrovsk and what was going on in Kursk. So stay with me. I'll try to explain. We have a lot of other things to get through, so I'll get through them as quickly as I can before we get to what was going on the battlefield. But I think I understand it. You can tell me in the comments afterwards if I'm missing any of the pieces or if I've got it correct. Okay, 1,200 Russians off the battlefield, only one tank, 2 armored fighting vehicles, 19 artillery systems, 81 vehicles and fuel tanks off the battlefield day over day. When we look at the numbers, 1,220, that's about the average here. 1,220 is the average, and the average, the number yesterday was 1,200. So that's where we are. Okay, I'm going to come back to that spreadsheet in just a little bit to explain things. Here's Andrew Perpetua saying here are the losses he could identify for March 12th, and it looks like the Russians have a little edge on the Ukrainians by just a little bit. It's about 1-to-1, but maybe with a Russian edge to it. Okay, next, Ukraine's Air Force repelled another Shahed drone attack overnight. Out of 117 launched, 74 shot down, 38 lost in location, but some of them did make some damage. Overnight, Putin's forces launched strikes on critical infrastructure across multiple regions of Ukraine. National railway operator warns of train delays and route changes. Power outages are also expected, but it's not a lot of damage. There was some damage. Dnipropetrovsk. I could say it. Sorry to cough. I didn't just stumble. Oblast railway power facilities targeted by Russian drones. Other attacks kill at least 4 civilians. Russian drones, bombs, and artillery strikes injured at least 29 civilians across several regions. Ukrainian UAVs, now what the Ukrainians are doing to the Russians, Ukrainian UAVs strike a drone production facility in Russia's Kaluga Oblast. Now that's a good hit. I mean, something like that is going to have a multiplier effect. Additional strikes targeted industry and energy infrastructure in Rostov, Voronezh, Saratov, Tambov Oblast of Russia overnight on March 13th. Russian media reports a drone strike on Saratov, a region of Russia. The attack was an enterprise that is engaged in gas pumping in the Saratov, Penza regions and has 5 compressor shops. It's reported that the compressor hit. Now, this is what's interesting. There's the drone, right? And it's just like there's nothing to stop it. And this is because Russia is so large, it has so many targets of opportunity, and we're not going to see it actually crash, but you can see it going down, right? It has so many targets within a large country that it's hard to have aircraft defense everywhere. It's reported that the compressor was hit. The drone is completely unchallenged due to lack of Russian air defense. Okay, a fire occurred at Moscow thermal plant, although it's unclear if it was linked to the drone attack. Russia's emergency ministry claimed the fire occurred on the roof of a building that was taken out of service for repairs. But that seems a little strange to me. Fire is raging, and that's the CHP-16, and the blaze is rapidly spreading. At first, security prevented firefighters from entering, claiming it was a restricted site, which seems a little odd if it's a restricted site being a thermal plant. Like what? Maybe something else is going on. I don't know. Moscow thermal plant, this is the same thing. Its cause is unknown. However, it is Thursday in Russia. A second explosion has occurred in that thermal power plant, this time more powerful than the previous one. So whether it was a drone, which we don't have any reports of, or some kind of explosion inside, or just an accident, we just don't know. Russian media reported on a large fire in the Kaluga region of Russia, a drone production facility hidden on a Russian plant. Okay, now that's all there's pretty significant drone attack on Russia. Let's look at the front lines. I couldn't figure this out for the longest time. I was saying, okay, what's slowing things down in Pokrovsk? Is it the weather? Is it they have drone advantage? Are they out of soldiers? What's going on? And you've heard me kind of wrestle with this if you've been watching consistently over time. Okay, now, yesterday we were talking about Suza, and it's looking really bad in Kursk. Like they're being pushed in Kursk. Let's start here, and then I'll connect the dots. Okay, Russian forces seize Suza town in Kursk Oblast. Russian forces advanced beyond Suitsa, securing positions in multiple settlements, while Ukrainian troops reportedly withdrew from key locations in the region. So this is from the ISW, carried again in Euromaidan Press, but from the ISW. So what's driving this? After 218 days in Russia, Ukraine, this is Euromaidan Press talking, Ukraine is ending its Kursk campaign. Now, I don't know that it's quite ending as I look at things. It looks like it's still there, but it's real small. Compared to the 1,300 square kilometers, it's just a few hundred at this point. Hopefully, it's more than 100, but it's just a few hundred. Ukraine's Kursk campaign, which drained Russian forces for half a year, is ending. And the whole goal was to make a bridgehead into Russia and then have Russians defend that rather than put pressure on the Ukrainian front lines. Okay, after 218 days in Russia, Ukraine's ending its Kursk campaign. The battle for Russia's Kursk oblast is reaching a decisive phase, with reports indicating that Ukrainian forces may be withdrawing from key positions. While the Russian military claims to have fully secured Suitsa, Ukrainian military intelligence disputes this, insisting that some Ukrainian units remain inside the city. Okay, Suitsa and beyond, Russia's rapid campaign. After a brief pause, Russian army has made a rapid advance, capturing significant territory in just 24 hours. Now, how are they able to do that? What's going on here that they're able to actually make that happen? Let me show you what this actually has looked like. So here are two maps that are somewhat explanatory. These are Russian soldiers in the red arrows, and you see the Ukrainian held territory is about this size, and then it's like split off about a third of it as they're just swarming in. Now, why are they swarming in? Well, Ukrainian supply lines have been cut. Ukrainian supply lines were cut because of the Rubicon drone forces, among other things, but primarily one of the big explanatory things is the Rubicon drones. Now, I talked about this about 4 days ago. Andrew Perpetua was talking about it, and he said, I sat on the Rubicon info for like 3 weeks before I wrote anything about it. I was too busy. The issue was obvious for a while. People are now trying to retcon random theories into, I don't know if retcon's a word. Is that a military word I'm not familiar with? If you know, put it in the comments. Random theories into what happened in Kursk rather than just accepting the reality that the supply lines got ganked. Okay, the supply lines were essentially cut. Now they have a whole different problem set, and they have to figure out what to do. And so the supply lines forced them into bad position. He said Kursk never had good supply lines, and if you followed the situation closely, you knew Ukraine was slowly retreating for months. That is very true. They took this area and they were slowly withdrawing, taking whatever casualties they could in the process. And that's the way that they were doing this. They were trying to not lose ground, but try to inflict maximum damage along the way. That's the trade. But the supply lines kept getting extra bonked in January and early February, made it obviously unsustainable. There was no other option but to pull out. Okay, but pull out looks like it's been a pull back, and they're not quite out, but they're certainly, the area that they hold has certainly shrunk in Kursk. Okay, no, not the last one. There's a couple more here. Ukraine's Kursk operation forced Russia to sacrifice Pokrovsk and Toretsk push. This is important. This accounts for what was going on in Pokrovsk slowing down and Toretsk actually gaining ground. So there's been some remarkable, I talked about this in the daily brief earlier in the week, how like, wow, they're actually gaining ground in Toretsk. It looks like they're picking up some ground in Pokrovsk. To counter Ukraine's Kursk maneuver, Russia shifted key forces, stalling its Donbass offensive. So they moved those forces to Kursk, and that's why Pokrovsk is still standing as opposed to just trying to overrun Pokrovsk, because they moved those key forces. Now, yesterday there was 42 assaults, and remember how so in the last month or so I was like, wow, these are remarkably low numbers of assaults. What's going on? I mean, is it the weather? Is it lack of soldiers? Is it drones? Is it what's going on? Because they should have taken Pokrovsk. I mean, I was worried that they were going to take it back in August or September, and I was praying for winter to come so it could slow things down. Okay, at any rate, that's where we are, I think. Russia claims its troops have taken Sudzha and Kursk. As expected, Russia bombed the city into ruins before declaring it liberated. When I visited, this is Jason J. Smart talking, when I visited months ago, Ukraine controlled the area with minimal damage. Putin aims to secure Kursk before peace talks with Ukraine. I think that's exactly what his strategy is. Ukraine's army chief Syrsky has vowed that Ukrainian forces will continue to defend Russia's Kursk region for as long as necessary, despite mounting Russian attacks. But if you go into the Kyiv Post article, he talks a little bit more about this here, saying, listen to this. While reports indicate that Ukrainian troops may be retreating, there has been no official confirmation from Kyiv, but they clearly are retreating. By Tuesday evening, Ukrainian troops have repelled 8 Russian assaults in the Kursk area. Syrsky, this is that line from what I just read, my priority remains saving the lives of our soldiers. If needed, our troops will reposition to more strategic locations. Okay, so, and that's right. I mean, you have fewer soldiers, you have to protect them more, and that's the right approach. On Wednesday, today is Thursday, on Wednesday, several pro-Kremlin propaganda channels have shared a video allegedly showing Russian soldiers in the city center, and I think that's probably a fair, legitimate video. Okay. Again, Syrsky, Ukrainians repositioned to stronger defensive lines in Russia's Kursk Oblast when needed. The top general says that the Russians are attempting to break through Ukrainian defenses and shift combat operations into Ukraine's Sumy and Kharkiv Oblast. And I've heard a little reporting here and there about exactly that they're trying to make some inroads into Sumy. I haven't seen massive breakthroughs yet. Okay, Putin says that all captured Ukrainian soldiers in Kursk region must be treated as T. Now, if you've been watching for some time, you understand what I'm saying when I say T, because I'm trying to, with YouTube censors. And here is Putin showing up, and this is Che Bao's lackey for RT, saying a remarkably healthy-looking Vladimir Putin arrives to be briefed by his generals in the complete defeat of Ukrainian forces in Kursk. 3 years ago, we were told he was dying. Now, the reason that he's saying remarkably healthy-looking Vladimir Putin, because he's not looking all that remarkably healthy earlier in the clip. Like the first part of the clip, he didn't look all that strong. And he's walking in here, and he's meeting with these guys, and he's saying, hey, look, we're going to treat them as T rather than combatants, and that's something. Here's Tanked Putin, a parody site, saying, today I visited the Kursk front. Oh, by the way, why would Putin be visiting the Kursk front right now? Okay, so the timing is really interesting. It's in bad shape, and it seems like it may very well be close to being pushed. The Ukrainians may be being close to being pushed out. So now Putin finally shows up, and how close he was to actually the front near Kursk is an open question. But it's weird because he doesn't usually dress like this. He's usually in a suit and tie. And so, okay, here's Tanked Putin. Today, I visited the Kursk front. By that, I mean a basement in Moscow with maps of Kursk on the walls. I put some green clothes to piss off Donald. Seems to have worked for Zelensky. Okay, I don't know that he's in a basement in Moscow. I mean, he could very well have gone to within the geographical boundary of Kursk, probably not too terribly close to the front. But, I mean, he's getting some media out of this. Certainly, that's what he's trying to accomplish here. Okay. I'm going to put the sound on here, and you're not going to see the picture because there's a little kid involved, and again, YouTube censors. And then I'm going to read what's saying here. The boy isn't even 2 yet, but he knows that when the alarm sounds, it's time to run to the shelter because Russia launched missiles. Breaks my heart to see him stop and look up at the sky with fear. Kids should be thinking about snacks and cartoons, not air raids. That's what's going on in Ukraine right now. Again, the kid's out of the frame. You're not seeing it. All you're hearing is the air raid, but that's what's happening in Ukraine. All right, my friends, start your day with a smile. Here's a drone operator, and we'll leave you with that image. And thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.